Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call the City Council Urban Affairs Committee meeting to order. It's April 17th. We are starting at 7:24. We have two items on our agenda this evening. The first one is order number 23-109-137, a communication from Attorney William Bruin on behalf of Robert Ledoux regarding a request for the release of the low-income deed restriction on the unit at 66 Village Drive, over 55 condominiums on Route 20 East. I believe Attorney Bruin is in the room if you would like to come to the well, and if he has Mr. Ledoux with him, he can introduce. I will quickly read his letter, and I think it will explain. I won't read the whole thing. I'll read parts of it, and he is here to explain and answer questions. But it's Dear President Ossing and Councilors, please be advised that this office represents Robert H. Ledoux, who resides at 101 Edinburgh Street, Marlborough, Massachusetts. Bob owns a condominium unit at 66 Village Drive. Mr. Ledoux is requesting a release of a low-income deed restriction on the unit. On September 8th, 1997, City Council granted a special permit for the proposed use of the condominium premises at 388 Boston Post Road East as a retirement community for no more than 102 units. The master deed to the condominium limits the occupancy to persons over age 55. The City Council designated 2 units as affordable, and the resale of such a unit is limited to, quote, price not greater than the maximum price allowed in this area for affordable property, affordable owner-occupied single-family townhouse units according to the current DHCD criteria of affordability, unquote. The units were never approved or accepted as low-income units by DHCD. As a result, Mr. Ledoux is unable to obtain a resale certificate from DHCD, which will allow him to sell his unit. I'm not going to read the rest of this. I think that gives the gist of what we're here for, and if councilors have questions, I'm going to let Attorney Bruin open with remarks. We make sure all 3 of those lights are on if anybody is speaking. There's a.
I see the green light. Attorney William Bruin speaking. I'm here with Robert Ledoux, 101 Edinburgh Street, Marlborough, Mass. Mr. Ledoux is 82 years old and has been a lifelong resident of Marlborough. And then I'm here also with his daughter, Laurie Barnes, who also is a resident of Marlborough, lives in the old Barnes house on Stowe Road. Thank you for your, Chairperson, for the presentation. Just to repeat, the condominium is in a condominium complex. The village is at East Marlborough, and the master deed of the condominium complex states that it's limited to folks that are over 55 years old. Not familiar back in 1997, but it appears that nothing. Yes, I have spoken with Bertha Boren at the Mass Housing and Community Development. That was back in 1999. She did a search of their records, and nothing was filed. So there was nothing, done that would have perfected the designation as an affordable unit. That being the case, we still have this restriction on the deed, and it's also on the special permit. And with that restriction, this is sort of like being in a closet with a locked door that, you can live there and whatever, but you cannot sell the property because you can, you have a restriction that says you need, a certificate, a low-income housing certificate from the department. The department doesn't recognize that you exist, so there's no way to get that certificate to ever sell the unit. And that's been going on, since the original purchase in 1998. What we're here is to ask that restriction created by the City Council be released. And there's a couple other factors that you know, from equitable fairness point of view is Mr. Ledoux, over the years, and his predecessor, Mr. Hartley, has been paying property taxes in Marlborough at the full amount, as if they were not low-income units. There were a period out of the 25 years, there were a period of 5 years when there was an abatement, but the abatements were then later taken away in subsequent years. So 20 out of the 25 years, they have been paying full taxes. And whatever calculation you want to do, if that's 20 times $2,000 or $2,200, it's somewhere over $40,000 that they have paid in. Additionally, Laurie has researched and provided me with information that the condominium complex is getting full common area charges. Common area charges are based on the square footage of the unit, and they do not take into account the low-income status. So again, from an equitable standpoint, I think, why are we here now? Well, Mr. Ledoux is 82 years old, and unfortunately his wife just passed, and we're looking to give him the flexibility to either pass it on to his children or to sell the property. He's been a good citizen, and we would just request this council to act on his behalf and approve the release of this restriction. Thank you.
Other questions, comments from the council? I'm looking your way.
I don't think it's funny at all.
Councilor Landers, do you have questions?
The question I have, Council Bruin, we're just talking about this unit now, right?
Yes, just this unit,
No, that's
66 Village Street.
That's fine. So I did have a question. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other councilors with questions? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. There are actually 2 units that were in this
That's
situation? Correct. This is one of the 2?
Yes.
Okay. And why do you think that the city council is the authority to approve this?
I've had, back in 2019, I had a memo to City Solicitor Cynthia Panagore Griffin, and she responded and clearly stated that it was in the domain of the Marlborough City Council. Her reasoning was that it never had been transferred to the Community Development Authority. It's listed in the special permit. It resides with the City Council, and there's no evidence that it ever went anywhere else.
Okay. That is not here, is it? Or?
No, it's not here, but I have it.
I would like to see that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, part of me says basically I'd rather not see low-income housing being removed from the table, just in general. You know, we have very little affordable housing in the city to begin with. Understanding, though, what you guys are going through is a complete mess. And
it's not on the subsidized housing list.
Yeah,
obviously.
right. So, you know, it wasn't, the paperwork wasn't completed. It's not your fault. You guys need to move on from that, and I understand that as well. But I just want to make sure we're the one with the authority to release you from this situation.
And I have, prior to filing, I did speak with the city solicitor just to confirm that that was his conclusion also. So I did make that call.
Okay. I'd like to see that in writing, but that's it.
I spoke with the city solicitor. He's not sure the language of the Exhibit C is the correct one. His preference is that we agree on the concept of releasing the fact that this is a low-income unit, and he will work on the language that would then come to the council. We would refer this matter to him to come up with language to do that. I will note that the actual deed does not say anything about low income. What it references is the special permit that the city council approved on November 19th, 1997, which does specify the 2 units were conveyed with the following criteria of being low income. So the fact that they were never, I think this got brought up when we tried to change the low income in the code as we were doing Downtown Village, and I had found the same exact information that DHCD will not let any over 55 units that have children restrictions on them count as low income.
Yes.
That's the issue. This is an over 55, no children allowed complex, and that's the key. So since that's how our code reads, every 55 facility in the city is no children allowed. So none of them could count as low income. So anybody else with questions? Councillor Ossing.
No questions, Madam Chair, just a point. So again, to remind you, this is not counted in our inventory. Just to state it simply, the council made a decision on a special permit and the city never carried through. The property's been taxed at fair market value. The individual's trying to sell this property with a restriction that's in our hands because we're the ones that issued the special permit, all right? But we don't count it anywhere, all right? So this body should refer this to legal to put it in whatever proper form that is, and I have no idea what that looks like, but to make it go away. And if you're concerned about the second unit, the solicitor addresses that. Attorney Bruin's not getting paid for the second unit, so that's not his issue.
He's my client.
Maybe word will get out to this other owner and they will come for the same process. Councillor,
No,
sorry, were you finished?
Yep.
Did you have your hand back up, Councillor Doucette? Or
Well,
Cindy?
if we're bringing up the issue of the second house, I'd rather kill two birds with one stone. And
We can't. This is a specific request for
Okay, fine.
one of the units.
no worries, you guys set
All
up the
we're doing.
template, thank you very much.
Any further questions from anybody? Councillor Vidal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This complex is within my ward, and I've talked with Attorney Bruin and Ms. Leduc, and we talked, and I think that it's about time that the city just makes it whole. That, you know, that we've been taxing at this higher rate, and it just seems like the right thing to do is just to eliminate, to agree to this change of language and allow this to take place tonight. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, then I think a motion would be in order to refer this to legal to come up with wording that would remove the restriction. Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Madam
Thank you.
Chair. Motion to refer to legal to put this in proper form in order to release the low-income deed restriction on the unit at 66 Village Drive.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. We'll just refer this to legal. I can report it out, and it will lay on the table. There will be a document at a future meeting that will be what legal feels is necessary to make sure that this is taken care of. Further questions, comments? Councillor Doucette.
So, it goes to legal, then comes to the council, right? Doesn't come back here.
I think it'll be fine. It can just be on the agenda for a future meeting as a letter from the solicitor. That'll be part of the report that
Comes
what we
out.
approved was having the solicitor put it in proper form.
Okay, I just want a clarification, that's fine, thank you.
Further questions, comments? Councillor Oram.
Just note, I'm not on this committee, but I will be in favor of this based on the presentation. Thank you. Yeah, once it comes to City Council. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. Anybody else? Comments, questions? If none, all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I will report this out at Monday's meeting. It'll get referred to the solicitor. A future meeting, then it should be on the agenda. Sounds like we will have this ready to fix for you for the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry it's taken so long. All right, the next item we have on our agenda is item number 23-100-9035, a communication from Viewpoint Sign and Awning on behalf of Best Western Royal Plaza Hotel for replacement of a freestanding EMC sign at 181 Boston Post Road West. So this was referred to the Urban Affairs. We did have a public hearing, And then it got sort of sent around to a couple of different places for comment. And we have a letter from the building commissioner that I will read. Dear City Council President, City Council members, in early November 23, this office received communications from Viewpoint Signs that the Royal Plaza Trade Center was exploring a replacement of their electronic message center EMC sign on the existing freestanding sign on Boston Post Road West. The sign had begun to have operational issues, and Viewpoint was no longer able to secure replacement parts for the sign. As part of the initial review of the sign permit application, the applicant did not indicate on the application that there was any sign, special permit, or variance associated with the existing sign, and as such, this department erred in its decision that the applicant would need a sign special permit to replace the existing EMC sign. Upon further research and review, this existing freestanding sign with an EMC component received a variance from the planning board decision August 7th, 1989, that was not factored into the initial determination. After re-examining the freestanding sign's history, this office offers the following comments. On August 7th, 1989, the planning board heard an appeal from a variance regarding installing an electronic message center sign on the freestanding signs at the Royal Plaza Trade Center. The variance was granted on August 15th, 1989 for an electronic message center sign to be installed on the freestanding sign. Due to this sign having an operational issue and lack of available replacement parts, the entire EMC component will be replaced with another EMC component of the same dimensions. Additionally, the applicant has provided a letter explaining the need to replace the entire EMC component. The sign is a pre-existing non-conforming sign that is within the 10-year time frame listed as part of 52613C. Therefore, the sign can be replaced with the same size in kind based upon their pre-existing planning board variance that was received on August 15th, 1989. It is noted that all pre-existing non-conforming signs that are to be replaced after October 6th, 2024 will need to comply with all portions of 52613. The office recommends that the applicant modify their sign application to a sign repair permit and that your council rescind any actions taken before this special permit application. Code sections along with the planning board decision have been attached to this letter. Best regards, 10 Tway, CBO Building Commissioner. So I had talked to the building commissioner before he actually submitted this letter asking him to send it. At the time, I agreed with his decision, but after looking at some information, specifically the variance, I am now a little concerned on us vacating this. At this point, I'm going to open it up for questions, comments from councilors. Councilor Ossing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'll start. So thanks, Karen. So she did point out that item 2, when you go look at the actual variance granted back in 1989, it really doesn't talk about electronic message center, right? But I do acknowledge the 526-13 on page 3 of the Commissioner's letter that says legally pre-existing non-conforming digital signs. They basically have a 10-year hall pass, and that 10 years started October 6, 2014. So that means they have until 2024 that they can keep their sign and modify it, I guess, as long as it doesn't change. But after 2024, I would think they would have to come into compliance, if I'm reading that correctly. I haven't spent a lot of time in signs and preferably don't want to become smart on signs. I'll let someone else take that.
I don't, well, I do actually want to become smart on signs. I would love to take them up, and I have been, had them thrown at me on a couple of occasions, and they've just sort of been pushed, too many other things important. But I guess my concern is what was approved in the variance was not an EMC sign, as you stated. It was a sign where they could, from my understanding of this, and it's hard to read, they were taking things and putting them on a, what is it?
It's if I could, Madam, it's the manual letters. They would put
yes,
the
manual
letters
letters,
up
and they
down
were
just
changed
make
on a daily, weekly, monthly, whatever basis, versus what is there now, which meets the EMC sign that was put up before we had our EMC sign code. So to me, the fact that they're pre-existing is one thing, but the fact that they're pre-existing on an EMC sign, and so I think that this needs to be reviewed more from the legal department's aspect to make sure that legal is agreeing with the building department, and I'm not sure that there was that conversation that was supposed to happen to make sure that they did all agree with each other. I don't know that there's any hurry on this. Best Western might think there is, but from what I understand, the sign is working. It's got some issues with it, but it is working. I've driven by and seen it advertising events that they're having, and you can read the sign. So unless somebody else disagrees with me and wants to move, I would prefer to leave this in committee, let it get taken up at another meeting where we can have legal and the building commissioner, or one or the other, or both of them here. Councilor Doucette, do I see a hand?
Yes, thank you very much. I think postponing this to get some more information is a great point here. You know, I had heated discussions with the originator of these sign, you know, design changes, standards, like while he was still on the council, you know. But I think that technology has moved forward, you know, significantly over the last 10 years. No one would ever think of putting an LED panel display outdoors in open public 10 years ago. I mean, the technology wasn't there yet. Now they're all over the place. And the concern was basically animated signs distracting drivers and then suddenly get into accidents. And I completely agree that that's an issue that we need to address. But you don't address it by addressing the technology. You address the presentation without talking about how the presentation is done. And I think what we have here is something of that situation where we're trying to say, oh, we're stopping LED displays. No, really, we're trying to block animated displays, you know, that can be distracting from drivers and stuff. And I think it's more important to go back, and if this becomes an issue, we might need to revisit it, but I think that's the better approach, to revisit it if necessary. In the meantime, I think getting more information is critical as far as moving forward.
All right. And I think a point that needs to be brought up is that it's not the sign itself and the technology and what's being displayed, it's the size of the sign is bigger than what we currently have in the code. So they need to figure out how to make it smaller, or they need, if the decision is they need something to do this besides just a repair permit from the building department, they would need a variance from the planning board. That is the possibility that would be the next step. Councilor Persiato.
Thank you. To me, it doesn't seem like this would be a repair permit either way. It seems like they just need to replace the whole thing. So I would definitely encourage this going back to legal and or the building commissioner speaking with legal and getting this all worked out before we meet again.
I agree, yes, but I think my point on the variance was the variance would be to put in a brand new piece of equipment that was bigger than what we allow, so that they would either agree to approve the variance or not approve the variance, in which case they would have to meet the size that we have in the code. But it's a bigger issue, I think, than we understand at this point. So if someone would like to move to table this in committee, we can
Motion to table in committee?
All right, it's been moved and seconded. We're going to hold this, bring it back at a future meeting for discussion with the solicitor or legal and the building commissioner. It's been moved and seconded. Is there discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. So we will set that meeting up. I know we have a couple things coming up on the agenda. We can get this back on as soon as possible and get it taken care of.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are adjourned at 7:49.